بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. This is the third sitting in reading the book headed Talib Ilm and explaining it. And as we did yesterday, we will be reading the book, and whenever there's a need to explain, we will do that, inshallah. Fadl.
Is it on?
No. This is and we started the third chapter, which are the manners of the talib, of the student, wa Shaykh with his Shaykh, or his teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Status for success, acquisition, and prosperity. So make your shed an object of your reverence, honor, appreciation.
Can you do the front? No, at the bottom.
Paid from the comprehensive aspect of etiquette when sitting with your chef or speaking to him, or asking him questions and listening to his answers.
You have no choice.
Also display a good etiquette
People's
with
not
anyone
loving it.
when turning his pages in his presence, abstaining from arguing with the intent of showing off in front of him. Do not proceed him in speech or in your steps, or talk excessively in his presence, and do not continually interrupt him while he is speaking or during his lecture.
He has one.
Do not continually pester him for answers to his questions, and avoid extensive questioning, especially in the presence of an audience, for I knew this attracts self-delusion on your behalf, and causes the sheriff to become bored. Avoid calling him by his first name or by his surname, as one would say, "Oh, Sheikh so-and-so." Rather, you should say, "Ya Shaykh," "Oh, Shaykh," or "Ya Shaykhana," "Oh, our Shaykh." And do not call him by name, for that is more elevated in manner. Also, avoid addressing him in the term "anta," or calling him from a distance without necessity. Consider the etiquette that Allah mentioned with the one who taught mankind all good in his saying, "لا تجعلوا دعاء الرسول بينكم
دعاء الرسول
دعاء الرسول بينكم كدعاء بعضكم بعض."
Why there is no light? That's what I'm trying. I'm gonna play with it. Let me know.
The Shaykh is saying, just like you have to show respect to the Prophet ﷺ, the best teacher and the first teacher, then the Shaykh who teaches you knowledge has the same respect which is due to him. And he says you should not call him with his first name, rather you should call him with the title Shaykh. Or you say Shaykhana, our Shaykh. And in fact, this is not just for the Shaykh, the teacher. This is even for a parent. For a parent, in the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, in the Adam Mufrad of al-Bukhari, he says that he saw a man walking with someone. فسأله, he asked him, "Man hada fiqh? Man hada fiqh? Who's this person to you?" فقال هذا والد, this is my father. فقال, he says to him, فلا تمشي أمامه, do not walk in front of him. ولا تناديه باسمه, and do not call him by his name. ولا تجلس حتى يجلس, and do not sit until he sits first. That is the respect the father, the parent is deserving of in Islam. Do not walk in front of him. Unless it's a time of danger and you have to protect him, then you do that. Otherwise, you should be respectful enough to walk behind him. And do not call him by his name. Do not call him by his name. You should call him by any other title. Abba, Abi, Baba, whatever you say. Ya Ruhi, oh my soul. You call your father with the best names which make him happy. That will be your ticket to Jannah. You are the crown of my head. Okay? And do not sit until he sits. That is complete respect. Now,
similarly, just as it is not befitting to call your biological father by saying, "Oh, so-and-so," or "Oh, my father so-and-so," and mention his name, then it is not befitting with your Shaykh. So adhere to preserving the awe of the gathering and displaying rejoice and benefit from the lessons. If a mistake from the Shaykh becomes apparent to you, or a delusion on his behalf, then let that not degrade the Shaykh in your eyes, for such would be the cause of you becoming deprived from his knowledge.
Put the microphone a bit away, yes, that is good.
And who is safe from falling into mistakes. Be careful not to interact with him in a way that irritates him, and from this is what the Muwallidun call the battle of nerves, which means to test the capacity of the Shaykh's knowledge and patience. If, however, you decide to change to another Shaykh, then seek his permission, for this is more befitting to his status and more likely to preserve love and compassion in his heart for you, and so on through the list of etiquette that is known by heart to every blessed and prosperous person out of a fulfillment of the Shaykh's right through his religious fatherhood, or what is referred to in some laws as cultural suckling, and referring to as religious fatherhood is more befitting, and leaving the other one is more appropriate. Know that your success is dependent upon how much you take his status into consideration, and barely considering it is a sign of your failure. I ask Allah to grant you refuge from the doings of the Ajib and followers of Sufi orders and the present-day innovators, from total submission that exceeds the boundaries of the Sharia, from licking the hands and kissing the shoulders and grabbing the right hand with both right and left hands when giving salam. Adults when they show affection to children and bowing at the time of greeting, and using slack phrases that indicates lowliness, such as Sayyidi, Mawla, and other such statements used by servants and slaves. Refer to what the Alamatul Salafi al-Shaykh Muhammad al-Bashir al-Ibrahimi al-Jazari died.
Muhammad Bashir Ibrahim, who's Bashir? The translator made a mistake. So Muhammad Bashir Ibrahimi al-Jazari from Algeria. Yes, that's what I'm saying. He made a mistake. Muhammad Bashir Ibrahim. Now,
Muhammad Bashir Ibrahim al-Jazari died 1380 after Hijrah rahimahullah, said in his book Al-Busair, for indeed it is exceeding in its content.
the Shaykh is saying, I ask Allah to grant you refuge from the doings of the A'ajim, meaning the manners of the non-Muslims, and the followers of the Sufi Tara'iq, Sufi orders. Whether it is Shadiriya, Qadiriyya, any of those Sufi orders. And the present day Mubtadi'a innovators. What does he intend in this? He says from total submission to the Shaykh that exceeds the boundaries of the Sharia. From licking the hands and kissing the shoulders, and grabbing the right hand with the left hand or giving salam. And some of them, they bow down to them and calling them these names which indicate lowliness. Sidi. Sidi means Sayyid, meaning our master, our Mawlana, our master. You know, one of the people, I forgot his name, he said the Arabs, the Muslims, when the Prophet ﷺ came and he said everybody is equal. The best one is the one with taqwa. The Muslims, they became top of the world. But when the Muslims left that, and they started calling each other these huge names, Sidi, my master. And the mimbar, it used to be 3 steps, that's the sunnah of the Prophet. When mimbars which are 2 floors high, he said the people, they became split and we became down. When we are humble, Allah put us up. When we wanted these big titles and going far away from each other, Allah put us down. Because the Prophet ﷺ said, وَمَا تَوَاضَعُ أَحَدٌ لِلَّهِ إِلَّا رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ. Nobody humbles himself for Allah except Allah will raise him up. So this is true. You'll find in the Sufi orders, the Sufi turuq, they exaggerate and go into extreme in matters of respecting or obeying the Shaykh. You can't do any ibadah except if the Shaykh tells you to do it. You can't learn anything except after the Shaykh tells you to learn. Because they believe, most of the Sufis, the Shaykh, when he reaches a certain level, he actually gets wahi directly from Allah. And so you have to be careful of the Sufis. You know, even though some people, they beautify it. They say, no, being Sufi just means you do a lot of dhikr. That, it's not true. Being Sunni, Salafi means doing a lot of dhikr. Because we talked yesterday, what does it mean to be Salafi? It is following the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's all it means. It's not a group or a cult or a clique or whatever. If the Prophet used to do dhikr, yes, Allah tells you in the Qur'an, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu dhkuru Allaha dhikran kathira. You should be doing a lot of dhikr. But you do it, the Shaykh mentioned, the first thing he mentioned, you know that knowledge is worship, and every worship has two conditions. One of them is what? Sincerity and ikhlas. And the other one? Loving the Prophet ﷺ, and that is by following him. So Allah says, yes, do dhikr. But now you should ask yourself, okay, so how do I do this dhikr? We come in a place like this, turn off the lights, you sit in a circle, men and women, and start saying, who? They say, this is dhikr, we're mentioning Allah. Right? That's what they do. Or they say, you sit here for 4 hours. You sit for 4 hours doing it. You're turning off the lights, really? Why are the lights going off?
Good luck. Like these are not coming on.
You
don't need it.
So we say that is not the way to do it. That is not the way to do it. You do it the way the Prophet ﷺ did it. Just like your prayer, you pray the way he prayed. Your hajj, you do hajj the way he did hajj. Every ibadah, the condition is al-mutaba'ah, you have to follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ would do dhikr individually by himself. There is no dhikr which is jima' in Islam. No dhikr which people do together. Completely. May you might say the Amin. When we are praying, we all say Amin together. Okay, that is the only one. Otherwise, there is no dhikr which people are supposed to be saying it simultaneously at the same time. Number 2, there is no dhikr which the Prophet ﷺ has specified a number over 100. You will never find any hadith for any dhikr which has a number over 100. It is either specific up to 100 or it is open general dhikr. Like Allah says, اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا, do a lot of dhikr. So if you hear someone saying to you, what was it? He was telling me a story. There was a man who memorized the Qur'an. He has one of the best memories. Harf of the Qur'an, every letter. But he said he saw in his dream that someone was telling him you have to say Ya Latif 10,000 times. And Latif is one of the names of Allah. Was it a million times? He said it 10,000?
No, it was always a million.
Someone came and said to him, you have to do Ya Latif 1,000,000 times. So he would sit literally 5 hours saying Ya Latif 1,000,000 times. Anything which happens like that, whether you say it in a dream, or someone who has a big beard and a turban and says, yes, I'm a Shaykh from wherever, you know he is lying. Kadhib, that is lies. There's no specification of any number above 100. There is one hadith which says 200 for one dhikr. Some of the scholars say it is not authentic. Allahu A'lam. But any number after that, someone comes and says, I'm your Shaykh now, you are the murid. You are the murid now. You are the disciple, the apprentice. And because you're starting, for you, you'll be doing 10,000 astaghfirullah a day, and 10,000 is Once you finish this, you move to a high level and you do 100,000. So you find someone sitting all day long doing dhikr, and thinking that this is getting close to Allah. No? The Prophet ﷺ says, "Kafa bil mar'i ithman an yudayya man ya'ul." It is enough of a sin for you not to take care of those you have to take care of. Islam does not say lock yourself in the masjid or in a cave and do dhikr all day and pray all day. No. Live. You're a human being. You have a life to live. But make sure the life has boundaries. They all lead you to Allah. That's it. That is why Allah says what? الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. You have to be a person of dhikr, whether you're walking, you're standing, you're seated, you're lying down. Any time is a time of dhikr. So you can be seated in your office, you're doing dhikr. You can be studying, and you get a break, doing dhikr. It doesn't mean you lock yourself in a mahbar, as they call it. And you say, oh, by the way, here, Shaykh so-and-so is buried here. If you do dhikr here, Allahu Akbar, it is blessed. There's nothing like that. It's everywhere. You have to be careful. You have to be careful because this is attractive to some people. They call it mysticism. It's attractive. Anybody who starts dancing and singing, know that that is not Islam. We don't have songs in Islam or music. Abadan. Except 2 times. Who knows them? Eid. During the day of Eid, the 2 Eids we have, it is allowed for women to beat the duf, the drum, and for them to sing. Between the women, halal, completely. In fact, they should do it. حتى تعلم اليهود أن في ديننا فسحة. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says so that the non-Muslims, because they were in Medina, the most non-Muslims were the Jews. He says so they can know that in our religion there is times also of enjoyment. It's not just every day you're studying, every day you're praying. No, it's Eid. You only have 2 Eids, 2 days of the year. They can beat the doof and enjoy. The women, men don't dance, and men don't sing. And another day, during the day of the nikah, when you get married, the Prophet ﷺ, in fact, in one hadith in Sahih Muslim, he encouraged Aisha. He said, what do you prepare for them for their amusement? حتى تعلم اليهود أن في ديننا فسحة. It's a day of enjoyment. You're a human being. Any human being needs what? In English you say what? You need to blow off some steam. Sahih al-Tur? You need a day off. You understand? That is why the Prophet ﷺ said the day of Eid is what? أيام التروي أيام أكل وشرب وذكر الله. It's the day you slaughter meat, you eat, you drink, you enjoy, and you do your dhikr of Allah. أيام التشريق أحسن. So beware. When you see someone is making music, you say, but I'm praising the Prophet, I'm defending Islam in my music. No. You're doing something haram for a good cause. In Islam we don't have that. مَا بُنِيَ عَلَى بَاطِلٍ فَهُوَ بَاطِلٍ. In Islam, whatever is based on lies, it's lies. Whatever based on falsehood is false. Whatever based on haram is haram. You understand? But this is the way of the Sufis. Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, he spoke during his time. He says, "Ulaik al-majanin." Those are the crazy ones who go beating drums and saying we're doing dhikr. And saying we're doing dhikr. He said, no, that is not dhikr. They are crazy. So this concept of nasheed is not new. It is old, very old. Al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, he died when? Ma'alim. Allahu Akbar. What year?
He was born.
No, I want to know what year he died. Very specific.
The second brother, 820 born, and he died at 44 years old, so he was 864.
Khayr. That is how many years from today? today until then? 1,600 years or not? No?
No.
1,200 years.
200.
His time, he says, these people, they're the crazy ones, don't listen to them. And this is not ibadah. It died out, except in certain communities. Now, the last 10 years, it became something big. It's a big market. People are making millions of machines. You understand? It's not new in the religion. This is the Sufi thing of the old. Poetry is allowed in Islam, poetry. But poetry is different from singing. Poetry is different from singing and music. So be someone who's aware. Don't fall into the traps. And again, the main thing which you mentioned about the Sufis is overpraising individuals. If we were told not to overpraise the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what about anybody who's less than that? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in Sahih al-Bukhari, "La tatruni kama abrat al-Nasara Isa ibn Maryam." Do not overpraise me like how the Christians overpraise Jesus, the son of Mary. Innama ana abdun, I'm just a servant of God. Faqulu Abdullahi wa Rasul. Say he is the servant of God and his messenger. Don't overpraise me. But you find the Sufi, he tells you, my Shaykh, his Shaykh, he used to meet with Jibreel and Jibreel will speak to him. Allahu Akbar. He's another prophet. I said, you have this ilm of hadith and al-akhbar, al-isnad. You have to wait. Haddathana, fulan, so and so told me. We have direct connection to God. God speaks to us. That is what Sufism is about. Extremism. It's all extremism. So be careful. So the Shaykh, he points that out. And other groups of the innovators who take their sheikhs or their imams as that is the peak, that's it. If my sheikh never said it, then it doesn't exist. La. There's nobody who knows everything. You have to be careful, because we have even those who call themselves Sunnis, Salafis, Ahl Sunnah, and they have ghulu, extremism in their sheikhs. If Shaykh so-and-so said it, it has to be true. A'udhu billah. Hear this from me. Al-Shaykhu yustadallu lahu, la yustadallu bihi. The Shaykh, whatever he says, you have to find a proof for that. His words are not a proof. The only proof in Islam is what? Al-Qur'an wa Sunnah. And the ijma' of the Ummah. Quran, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, and the consensus of the Muslim scholars. That is the proof in Islam. Whoever said whatever he said, you have to judge it to this scale, mizan. If it fits to the Quran, you say, okay. You say, bravo. You are good to go. If his words, they conform to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, we say, nice one. It conforms to the ijma', say good, alhamdulillah. But if his words, he said them and there's no proof for them, it doesn't matter who he is, even if it was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. وَحَشَاهُ يَقُلْ هَذَا. Abu Bakr will never say things like that, but this is the example we have to give you to understand. We mentioned yesterday, the only ma'soom of this ummah is who? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is the only one who doesn't make mistakes in the religion. Anybody else could make a mistake. So it does not mean from today we say, yeah, we don't listen to the Shaykh because he could make mistakes. No. We have to be balanced, as the Shaykh was saying. Respect the Shaykh for the knowledge he has. And you benefit from him. But you don't go to the extreme and blind follow him and accept everything he says. No. You have to be balanced. This religion is a religion of balance. Especially when you find the Shaykh is speaking about someone else. This is the fitna we have. When this Shaykh is speaking about another one, Make sure you become someone who uses his intellect properly. You don't just blindfold. Oh, Shaykh so-and-so said this. No. What he said, is it true? Does it apply to the person? That person, maybe he did do that mistake. Was it intentional, or maybe he just slipped and he made a human error? You understand? You have to be smart enough to know that. Now, in Ibrahim, he said you should refer to the beautiful words of Shaykh Muhammad Bishr Ibrahim. Shaykh Muhammad Bishr Ibrahim is one of the great scholars of the past century in Algeria. He's one of those who started the movement to kick out the French colonialists in Algeria. He's one of the great scholars. Now, what time is it? We have 10 minutes to adhan. Now, Faddal, read.
Your capital, O seekers from your Shaykh. Follow his pious manners and noble character. As for acquisition and dictation of knowledge, then that is extra profit.
Allahu Akbar. He says, follow his manners and noble character. As for the knowledge from the Shaykh, that's just an extra bonus. We mentioned this yesterday, right or wrong. You go to learn what? Manners. Knowledge, he says, yes, subhanAllah, he says the knowledge here from the Shaykh, he says it's just extra. So if you go to the Shaykh and the only thing you got was the manners, then you have got everything. You have got everything. You understand? The knowledge is just extra. Because if you have the knowledge and you don't practice it, khusran, you're a loser. You're a loser. Yeah.
However, do not be taken by an exuberant love of your Shaykh, lest you fall into abnegation without realizing, and all those around you realize. So do not imitate him in his voice, tone, walk, movements, or appearance, for he didn't become a great Shaykh just by this. So don't fall by following him in this.
He is mentioned, we say some people they go to extreme and follow the Shaykh. My Shaykh, he puts his pen here like this, so I have to put it like that. And my Shaykh, he only wears his kufi like that, so I will wear like that. He walks like this, nah. This is ghulub, this is extremism. This is extremism. Only if the action he does, or the words he says, we say what? They conform to the scale. What is the scale? The book of Allah or the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then yes, you follow him. Because why now? You're not following him. What are you following? The sunnah, the way of Islam. You understand? So the Prophet ﷺ, he said, when you walk, lower your gaze. You don't just look at everything. So you see a Shaykh doing that. You follow him not because of him, because you're following the Prophet ﷺ. You see a Shaykh is wearing white. You don't wear white because of he wears white. You wear white because the Prophet ﷺ said what? Khairul Libas said the best of your clothes is white. So you should wear white. وَقْفِنُوا بِهِ مَوْتَاكُمْ, and the people who die, shroud them in white. So you wear white because the Prophet ﷺ encouraged it. You understand? You don't follow a Shaykh to this extreme. Some people do. Oh, I love Mahir Ma'aqali, Hafidahullah. So you try to recite just like him. You can learn from him, but you should recite the way you know, which is easy for you. There's no takalluf in Islam. You know, you don't strain yourself just to sound like Mahir or Shaykh Abdul Rahman's days. No. In fact, some of our shuyukh, they said this is bid'ah. Taqleed al-Qur'an, they said this is bid'ah. In terms of learning, okay. But that is how you recite in your ibadah, in your salah, they said no. You should recite the way you know, what is easy for you. You understand? No.
The Shaykh's enthusiasm in his lessons. This is dependent upon the seeker's capacity to listen, frame of mind, and how much he becomes emotionally involved with his Shaykh in his lessons. For this reason, beware of becoming a tool for cutting off his knowledge by being lazy, slack, or slouching and allowing the mind to wander during his lessons.
The Shaykh is saying here, you, the student of knowledge, you reflect on the Shaykh. You come late, you are slouching in the class, you are yawning after 5 minutes in the class, you are not prepared in the class, then that will reflect on your Shaykh. He will lose his enthusiasm also. Like I was about to lose mine today. I don't sugarcoat anything. You understand? That is very true. Because at the end of the day, the Shaykh will say, if I have better things to do, if they are not really willing to learn, I can be doing other better things. You understand that? So your enthusiasm will reflect back to your Shaykh. And you'll say, oh, he wants to learn, I will teach him. They don't want to learn, I will go use my time in another way. Yeah.
Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi, rahimahullah, said, the right of benefit should go to a zealous wanter, and not wanter.
And the person who wants it. He says the right of benefit. Who should you benefit? If you have knowledge, who should you give it to? He says give it to someone who's zealous and he wants it. He is zealous, meaning he has a passion for it and he wants it. That's the one you should give. No. And not presented?
And not presented except to the person interested in it. So if the muhaddith sees slackness from the listener, then let him become silent. For some of the people of culture said, the enthusiasm of the speaker depends upon the capacity of the listener. He then narrated through his chain of narrators to Zayd ibn Wahab that he said, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud said, narrate hadith to the audience as long as they glance at you with their eyes. And if you see slackness from them, then halt.
No.
Writing what the Shaykh says during the lesson or revision. Understand that this differs from one Shaykh to another, and it has etiquette and a condition. As for the etiquette, you should notify your Shaykh that you are going to write, or that you have written in revision form. As for the condition, you should indicate that you wrote it from listening to what he said in his lesson. Acquiring knowledge from a mubtada', an innovator. Beware of the mubtada' Abu Jahl, the one who has been touched by deviancy in his creed and engulfed by the clouds of fiction. He who allows himself to be ruled by his vain desires and calls it logic and diverts from the texts, the Qur'an and the Sunnah. After all, where is logic to be found except in the text of the Qur'an and the Sunnah? He also holds fast to weak hadiths and distances himself from the authentic hadiths. They are also referred to as Ahl al-Shubuhat and Ahl al-Hawa. Ahl al-Ahwa. People who follow their desires in their religion. And for this reason, Ibn al-Mubarak, rahimahullah, used to call them al-Asaghir.
The Prophet ﷺ said, the time when the Muslims will be destroyed, if I remember clearly the hadith, إِذَا أُخِذَ الْعِلْمُ مِنَ الْأَصَاغِرِ, when the knowledge is taken from the asaghir. Literally it means what? Asaghir means what? Young ones. But the ulama, almost all of them, they say it does not mean young ones. It means they are the people of bid'ah, the people of ahwa, the people who are not following the way of the sunnah. They are referred to as saghir. They are the weak ones. If knowledge is taken from them, then that's the destruction of Islam. And anyone who teaches the truth, even if he is younger than you, he is akbar, he is bigger than you in the religion. You understand? No.
Al-Dahabi rahimahullah said, if you see the innovative mutakallim.
Mutakallim is someone who goes into philosophy, and he leaves off studying the religion the way it's supposed to be. No.
Saying leave out the Qur'an and Sunnah and bring forth logic, they know that he is Abu Jahl.
So if you see someone who says leave the Qur'an and Sunnah, bring forth logic, mantiq, bring philosophy, let's see how we can conform the ideas of Plato with Islam and Socrates. He says that know that he is Abu Jahl. Know that he is Abu Jahl. Now,
and if you see,
and Abu Jahl, for those of you who don't know, he was one of the main enemies of Islam, right?
see the one on the spiritual path, one who claims that practicing a set of prescribed forms of innovative worship, he will attain oneness with Allah, which is the Sufis, saying, leave us from knowledge that is transmitted, and bring forth the taste and ecstasy of passion. Then know that he is Iblis, become manifest in a human form.
Like we said, if you see the Sufi who says to leave this haddathana, narrations, hadith, and bring us the ilm of Daw'ah, the knowledge which brings us ecstasy. You know, by the way, if you sit somewhere which is dark and you move your head and say, ooh, 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 you will feel high. You'll get high, even if you don't smoke anything. That's just human nature. You've been swinging your head for half an hour, you'll feel good. You understand? So they say that is what we want. They think that is what worship is. He says if you see one of those, they know that he is Iblis, he is a devil in a human form. He is a shaitan in the form of a human being. And he has become incarnate within him. So if you become cowardly, then run away from this person. If you are cowardly and you don't want to face this guy, he says run away. Otherwise, he says you should wrestle him down, stay on his chest, put your knee on his chest and read Ayatul Kursi. He says read Ayatul Kursi on him to take up the shaitan. It's what Imam al-Zahabi is saying. Now.
He also said, Rahimahullah, and I read in the handwriting of the Shaykh al-Muwafaq
al-Maqdisi.
His saying, we heard his lesson, Ibn Abi Aswam, with my brother Abi Umar, then we stopped going to his lessons. I heard my brother say, I entered his house after that, and he asked, why have you cut yourselves off from me? So I replied, some people say that you are Ash'ari. And so he said, Wallahi, I'm not an Ash'ari. This is a rough meaning of that story. It was narrated that Malik Rahimahullah said, knowledge is not taken from four.
Malik Rahimahullah, he says, knowledge is not taken from four kinds of people. The first one?
A foolish person.
Person who publicizes foolishness. Safir. Someone who's foolish and he acts foolish. Even if he has knowledge, you don't take knowledge from him. Second one, he says even if he was the most prolific narrator of hadith, even if he was the most prolific narrator of hadith, you don't take hadith from this person. Because he acts foolish, he doesn't have good manners. And the second person, he says, a person of bid'ah who calls to it. A person who is mubtadi' and he calls to his bid'ah. Whether he's from the Khawarij, the Mu'tazila, the Sha'ira, the Qadariyya, all the Shia Rafida, you don't follow that person who calls to his bid'ah. This is a very fine point, someone who calls to his bid'ah. A third person, he says, a person who lies in his speech with people. Even if I don't accuse him of lying in hadith, he doesn't lie when he tells hadith. He is good in his narration of hadith, but when he speaks to people, he lies. He says, this person, you don't take hadith from him. Why? Because he has no adala. He is not to be trusted. And the fourth person, in a noble, pious worshipper, someone who is noble, is a worshipper. He fasts, he prays a lot. Lakin, if he does not memorize precisely what he narrates, he doesn't know how to teach. He has no ilm. He's just a worshipper. You don't take knowledge from that person. We'll stop here, inshallah, and continue after the Salah of Asr. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.